With me now is Scott Reid, our CTV News political commentator. Scott, thanks as always for joining us.
Morning, Roger.
What are you expecting tomorrow? Are there any surprises, do you think?
I am not expecting to be surprised. Pierre Poilievre's going to win this thing in a walk, obviously. There's a reason he picked this specific riding, and that is the safest conservative riding in the country. And why not? I mean, after losing on election night, after losing his own riding on election night, why screw around? Let's just get the deed done. There's going to be a fall session of Parliament. He wants to be in his seat. He wants to be leading his party, and he wants to take the fight to the Prime Minister. So I don't expect any surprises. He may or may not get as much as the last candidate who won with 81%. I actually think that's kind of a false debate. We're going to forget what the percentages were by the time the day is over. So he's going to be back in Parliament, and that sets up this next stage of the political match between Carney and Poilievre.
And that'll start up soon enough. I just want to ask, what do you think of the idea of the write-in ballots? Is there going to be any controversy with that?
Well, I think there has been controversy, and I do think it's going to force Elections Canada's hand in terms of having a serious discussion about what's to be done about this so-called longest ballot initiative, which is how we ended up in a place where you have 200-plus candidates. And if anything, well, I'll be curious to see in execution who had advantages and disadvantages. My guess is because you're going to have to write the name in, it will advantage Poilievre because it will advantage those who are best resourced and best organized, making certain that they get their people there. That's why you saw such a huge advance vote. That was Poilievre's people making sure they got their votes in. But either way, having a bunch of people who don't live in the riding come in and sign nomination papers for candidates who don't live in the riding, having people able to sign nomination forms for multiple candidates, I think there are changes that we can make to the process so you don't see this happen again.
All right, and then let's assume that Poilievre wins. What can we expect when he gets back to Ottawa?
I think we're going to see a repeat of the last couple of years. And, well, I shouldn't say that. The last couple of months, the last 6-7 months. So Pierre Poilievre, one thing that is super interesting about this choice to run in Alberta is it has encouraged him to steep in his own conservative stew. So you have not seen him since the election say, you know, I really learned some lessons. I'm going to moderate this. I'm going to make a shift here. I'm going to move to the middle. None of that. None of that. And there's no reason to think that way if you're running in Alberta because you're going to be getting a pretty small seat conservative litany of feedback. So what do I expect in the fall? I expect that Pierre Poilievre is going to come hard at Mark Carney, and I think it's going to be more of the same, the greatest hits. It's going to be affordability, criticism of the Prime Minister, don't trust those Liberals, and to be looking for stumbles as the Prime Minister actually faces his first real session of Parliament as Prime Minister. If the government can't deliver on big promises, Pierre Poilievre will be there as opposition leader in the House of Commons with his own seat, and he'll be pounding hard.
Okay. Scott, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roger.
Scott Reid is our CTV News political commentator.